Hey everybody, it's your Mr. Bird here, and I am here to fix my Jamestown Colony notes issue that we ran into last week. I'm going to be looking over here at my notes, and I'm going to be filling them in here, so follow along, okay? So King James I grants a charter to the Virginia Company in 1606 and settle and civilize America. He wants to prevent enemy, read French and Spanish. Make that a bit bigger. French and Spanish advancements into the New World and find that northern passage to Asia. Okay, so what was the Virginia Company? It was a joint stock company. Okay, a group of wealthy investors and shareholders. Okay, they plan to establish settlements in America for a profit. Okay, for a profit. All right. Our next slide here. Okay, how could investors convince people to go? Okay, well, most people were told they could. Most people were looking for. They sought new opportunities. Okay, expected wealth from gold, because they thought, just like the Spanish found gold in Mexico, that they would suddenly have a ton of gold themselves if they just, wandered around and found it lying on the ground. December 1606, okay, roughly 100, okay, settlers and entrepreneurs set off for America. They arrive in Chesapeake Bay. Oof, I think I spelled Chesapeake wrong. Yep, Chesapeake has an E on the end. Chesapeake Bay in April of 1607. Now we have Edward Maria Wigfield is elected president of the governing council and selects the. What do you think he selects? The colony's location. Colony location. All right, and so we're next on to this. Why Jamestown Island? Okay. So, why did they choose that? It was far enough inland to hide from the French and Spanish. Okay. It had deep water inlets that provide anchor for the ships. Okay. And the swamps and woodlands offers protection from local Native Americans. Okay, about 14,000 Algonquins, Algonquins, Algonquin Indians lived in the Virginia area. So Chief Powhatan, Powhatan, Powhatan. His daughter was the famous Pocahontas, and she kind of plays into the rest of these notes a little bit, okay? And of course, this is a drawing of the original Jamestown colony from the time period. So this is a primary source, all right? All right, now we're going to move on to what was called the starving time. Nobody likes to starve. Okay. So the reason there was a starving time, there was bad weather. Bad water, okay, from the infected river because they didn't know how to deal with sanitation back then, okay? And there was a lack of food because they all went there to, find gold. They didn't go there to grow food, okay? And then we're going to have to do this. We're going to make a copy of this, and we're going to paste it. Ooh. Oh, I forget that comes up for me. So I'm going to use my control systems. Okay, and put another box down here, okay? And so what we got going on here is there were also attacks and raids by local Native Americans. Okay, so now we're talking about John Smith to the rescue. John Smith, supposedly, everything was saved by John Smith. Okay, he takes command, be a capital, command of the colony. Okay, and he comes up with this philosophy. Okay, this philosophy that gets everybody on page or doing what they need to do, and that is, he who will not work shall not eat. That's simple. No working, no eating. Okay, no contribution, no reward. All right, next thing we got going on here. So, only about 300 colonists left when two ships arrived from England with resources and new settlers. Okay, so everybody's like started to say, "Hey, we could make something go of this," but 300 people decided, home, see ya, back to Britain. Okay, and we talk here in 1612. A guy named John Rolfe, oops, Rolfe, John Rolfe, creates a smoother breed of tobacco. And what he was trying to get was something that didn't cause so much irritation in the throat and lungs so it could be enjoyed more. Yay, nicotine addictions. Okay, it becomes very, very popular in England and Europe. Okay, and tobacco becomes a major, what is called a cash crop. A cash crop is essentially a crop that is grown purely for profits. Okay, not take any of it for yourself, just make your money off of it. All right. John Rolfe ended up marrying said Pocahontas, girl we talked about earlier, and yes, she was a real person. Not so much the Disney movie though. And she helps bring peace to England and Native Americans in Virginia. So she helps kind of negotiate that peace. All right. Okay, now let's talk about help arriving again, because Jamestown just can't seem to keep its fat out of the fryer. Growing tobacco is very labor intensive, and more colonists are needed to do this work. Okay, but indentured servants arrive. These are poor English people who agree to work for a number of years in return for their passage. So essentially, the guy pays for the passage. This person has a debt to the person. So he has a person as a debt to the guy, and so they work and they pay back that debt. So it's kind of like they bought the passage and now they're paying him back for it. Sort of like when you buy a car, you make car payments. Okay, so now let's talk about what happens next. Indentured servitude starts becoming a little less tenable because people get out of their indentured servitude and don't stay, and they have to try to find more indentured servants, and people weren't as convinced they needed to be going to do this. Okay, and so what we have is eventually more tobacco is needed, okay, to keep up with the demand. Tobacco is needed to keep up with that demand in Europe because everybody's getting nicotine addicted. Okay, so the first Africans were brought to Jamestown in 1690, and the institution of slavery begins. Now, I'm going to tell you a few things about this. Yes, the original Africans who were dropped off the ship were taken on as indentured servants and were given their freedom after a certain amount of time and paying off of the fees that they paid to purchase them from the Portuguese who brought them. Okay, but later people started realizing that they didn't have to make these people indentured servants. They didn't understand what was going on. They were ignorant, so they kept them in slavery and bondage. And this is what started the chattel slavery trade in North America. It also continued throughout the Caribbean and throughout Mexico, as well as places in South America. I also want to point out to you that the last country to make slavery illegal was Brazil, and that was in 1888. So it really hasn't been that long, okay? Really hasn't been that long since slavery was actually legal somewhere in the world. But today, it's completely illegal. Okay, let's move on. Jamestown Colony. We're talking about the House of Burgesses. I have a personal connection to the House of Burgesses because my ultimate ancestor on this continent, William Byrd II, who was a famous Virginia planter, slave owner, tobacco grower, was actually served in the House of Burgesses and represented the area he was from in Virginia, which is now part of the city of Richmond. Okay, so it was established originally, let's see here, in 1619. Okay, 1619. Okay, and it becomes the first representative REPRESENTIVE representative. Ooh, I didn't even spell that right. Let me fix that. There we go. Representative government in America. Okay, so women start to arrive in Jamestown, of course, a little bit before this House of Burgesses thing. So in 1608, about 90 women arrive. And what does this do for us? Well, you bring women in, and then people want to get married and have children, and establish themselves, and have more of a permanent settlement. Okay? And this allows the settlement to start establishing that basic unit of society, the family. Families, we should say families, and make Jamestown more of a permanent colony. All right? And so that takes up care of all of our Jamestown notes. Again, I'm sorry I didn't give you the right references for that. Next week or next time, I'll double check them and make sure they work. In fact, I'm currently working on and building the 13 Colonies website so that all your reference material will be in one singular place on our textbook website. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good week, and that's everything for Monday. Talk to you later.